For many people, being alone at home is a common experience that brings a sense of peace and tranquility. That particular evening, I was no different. With my parents gone for the weekend, I had the entire house to myself. It was the perfect chance to relax, catch up on my favorite TV shows, and maybe even sneak some snacks from the pantry. Our house was an old Victorian with creaky wooden floors and a mysterious attic. Despite its age, there was a certain charm about it that always made me feel secure. However, as the sun set and darkness crept in, the atmosphere in the house began to change. The usual sounds became more pronounced, almost eerie. I tried to dismiss my growing unease as just my mind playing tricks on me, probably due to watching too many scary movies. The shadows dancing on the walls and the strange noises seemed to be nothing more than my imagination running wild. I settled into the cozy living room, ready for a thrilling night with a bowl of popcorn and a lineup of horror movies waiting for me on the TV. As the first film began, I quickly became absorbed in the plot, my earlier feelings of unease fading away. Outside, the wind howled, causing the windows to rattle and creating an eerie backdrop to the chilling scenes unfolding on screen. About an hour in, a soft, rhythmic tapping sound caught my attention, coming from the kitchen, almost like someone was lightly drumming their fingers on the countertop. I paused the movie and listened intently, but the sound had vanished. With a casual shrug, I resumed the film, only for the tapping to return, this time more persistent. My heart raced as I stood up and cautiously approached the kitchen. Upon entering, I flicked on the light, which flooded the room with a stark brightness. Everything appeared perfectly normal. The dishes were piled in the sink, the fridge hummed softly, and the countertop was clear. I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I was holding and turned to leave. As I glanced over, my eyes landed on it. Resting on the kitchen table was a petite, vintage key that seemed unfamiliar to me. Its worn appearance hinted at a connection to an era long past, perhaps an elegant piece of furniture from yesteryears. Curiosity piqued. I lifted it, examining its intricate design. How did it end up here? Could my parents have left it behind before their departure? With a puzzled expression, I stowed the key away in a drawer and made my way back to the living room. Throughout the night, peculiar events unfolded one after another. Doors I distinctly remembered closing were now ajar. A mysterious tapping sound trailed me as I moved from one room to another, always vanishing just as I attempted to pinpoint its origin. The once cozy house, which had felt like a safe haven, now felt like it was encroaching upon me, suffocating me with its eerie atmosphere. At midnight, I made the decision to call it a night and turned off the TV before heading upstairs to my bedroom. Upon reaching the top of the stairs, I noticed a faint light emanating from under the attic door. The attic was seldom used, mainly for storage, and the only access was through a shaky old ladder that was always kept folded up. My heart raced as I approached the door, wondering why there was a light on. Summoning all my courage, I pulled down the ladder and ascended into the attic. The attic was chilly, filled with boxes and old furniture covered in dust and cobwebs. In the distant corner, I spotted a small, flickering candle. Beside it lay an old, leather-bound diary. I picked it up and began to flip through the yellowed pages. The entries were dated over a century ago and recounted the tale of a young girl who resided in the house with her family. As I delved further into the diary, the entries took on a more sinister tone. The girl wrote about hearing peculiar noises and witnessing shadowy figures, much like what I had experienced that night. A particular entry grabbed my attention. It made mention of a concealed room within the house, only accessible through a hidden passage. The key to unlock this room was intricately described, weathered, vintage, just like the one I stumbled upon in the kitchen. A chill ran down my spine. I felt compelled to uncover this room. I dedicated the following hour to meticulously searching the entire house, on the lookout for any indication of the secret passage. Eventually, my efforts paid off. I discovered a small covert door concealed behind a bookshelf in the study. My hands shook with anticipation as I carefully inserted the key into the lock and turned it. The door let out a loud creak as it swung open, revealing a narrow staircase that descended into the unknown darkness below. Taking a deep breath, I made my way down the staircase, feeling the chill in the air intensify with each step I took. When I reached the bottom, I found myself in a small, poorly lit room that resembled a child's play area, filled with dusty old toys and a tiny bed. The walls, however, were adorned with unsettling drawings, simple, childlike depictions of a dark, ominous figure. In one corner stood a mirror, its surface marred by cracks and tarnish. As I drew closer to the mirror, an intense wave of dread washed over me, and the atmosphere felt heavy, with the shadows around me deepening. Gazing into the mirror, I was startled to see not my own reflection, but the terrified face of the young girl from the diary, her eyes wide with fear as she appeared to be silently pleading for help. Out of nowhere, the tapping sound returned, even louder than before, echoing from behind the mirror. I instinctively reached out to touch it, and to my shock, my hand slipped right through as if the glass were liquid. My heart raced as I recoiled, stumbling back in fear. The tapping intensified, and it felt like the walls were closing in on me. In a state of panic, I dashed up the stairs and slammed the door shut, leaving the house enveloped in a heavy silence that made my ears throb. Realizing I couldn't remain there any longer, I grabbed my phone to call my parents, but the call failed to connect. In a frenzy, I bolted out of the house and into the dark night, not stopping until I reached a neighbor's place. Gasping for breath and filled with dread, I recounted the bizarre events, prompting them to call my parents, who hurried back home without delay. Upon my parents' arrival, we made our way back to the house together. Much to our surprise, the secret room had disappeared, and the mirror had reverted to its usual appearance. The diary had mysteriously vanished, and the key was nowhere to be found. Despite my parents' attempts to reassure me that it was all just a figment of my imagination, I couldn't shake off what I had witnessed. Even now, I remain unable to comprehend the events of that fateful night. The house has long been sold, and I have never returned. Yet on occasion, during the stillness of the night, I can still hear that eerie tapping sound. It makes me ponder whether the girl from the diary ever found the peace she sought. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more terrifying stories. And remember, sometimes the most horrifying monsters aren't the ones that chase you, but the ones that wait patiently for you to come to them.